I'm here tonight to talk to you about one of my life's great loves. It's a love that has shaped my aesthetic, informed my creative output, and my entire identity. It began before I can even remember. I wasn't even 3 years old yet, in 1977, and with my dad, Robert. And he, like most dads in America that year, took the family to see the hottest box office ticket at the movies, Star Wars. And one of the film's heroes reminded me so much of my father, and still does. Good-looking, well-traveled, intelligent, persnickety, protocol-obsessed, gay perfectionist C-3PO. So my love of robots began not just because I found them fascinating, but because they were family. And they were everywhere when I was a kid. Tweaky on Buck Rogers was voiced by Mel Blanc, the same man who gave me my favorite cartoon characters, Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. And the Disco Stormtroopers, the Cylons, gave me my favorite colors, chrome and LED red, and made the sound of the vocoder music to my ears. And then the best of all, the robot-human hybrids, the cyborgs, whether they were villains like Darth Vader or heroes like the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, taught me that with technology, we could be delivered from death. But that doesn't deliver us from evil. That is in the choice of the user. Is our newfound power used for harm or for help? Does it enhance our humanity or diminish it? The lessons of the sci-fi 70s segued into the poppin' and lockin' 80s, where we all started doing the robot and bringing home our first computers or video game consoles. It was the era where women's fashion found endless inspiration in the replica femme fatales Rachel and Pris of Blade Runner, and where James Cameron gave audiences their most enduring technological nightmare in the form of the Terminator. We learned new words and new art forms that decade: modem, anime, and other words took on new meaning: networking, cellular, escape. In the 90s, the word cyber entered our consciousness, the internet entered our spaces. And with advancements in prosthetics, with implants allowing deaf children to hear, the notion of bionic people didn't really seem that far-fetched. And that's where we find, at Clark Community College in Washington State, just across the bridge from Portland, Oregon, young Anna Lynch, study of popular culture and knee-deep in 70s nostalgia with reruns of The Bionic Woman on a constant loop. And having just studied Joseph Campbell's examination of the hero's journey, I took his criteria and applied it to my childhood heroine, Jamie Summers, for my first ever robotic writing project, OSI Magazine, the Bible of Bionic Love. And this was in the explosion of the zine phenomenon. If you're not familiar with this uniquely 90s occurrence, a zine is a small self-published magazine, and it's usually something about popular culture, some obscure obsession of the author. My zine painted the caring and compassionate Ms. Summers as the union of opposing forces of science and nature, the literal embodiment of the future, and a herald for the coming technological age. Not just a television show. No, the Bionic Woman is an oracle, teaching us that technology is not something to be feared, but that something, if harnessed with the best intentions, can take humanity to the next level of existence, physically, mentally, spiritually. And it was around this same time that mutual loves of mine, love of theater, music, and dress up, all converged when I was asked to MC and perform in a twice-weekly drag and burlesque show in Portland, Oregon, at a place called the Paris Theater. And for our Halloween show, I decided I was going to be a robot. Yeah, big stretch, I know. And as I was describing my movements and my look to my friend Michael, the word Ana Matronic escaped my lips. And as soon as it did, we both froze and looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, Ana Matronic." And in that moment, Anna Lynch was reborn, a better, stronger, faster, 21st century cyborg super queen, Ana Matronic. And where do cyborg super queens go? Silicon Valley, and that's where, in the pansexual San Francisco cyberpunk late 1990s, I found a home and a calling amongst an incredible group of artists and performers who would converge every Tuesday at an alternative drag club called Tranny Shack. And that was where I learned how dress up, glamour, drag is not just a fun way to comment on gender in society, but it can be used as a real, powerful tool for personal transformation and self-realization. The drag club is, for many transgender people, the first public step in embodying their true selves. And T-Shack provided for me a safe space to explore my own sexuality and gender expression. And I found that by taking an aspect of my personality and blowing it up into a separate persona to inhabit, an avatar, IRL, drag helped express the multitudes within me. And by living a life of my own creation, even for a night, even for 5 minutes on stage, I was able to create my true self. And it was in this hotbed of inspiration that I was introduced to the work of another science writer who influenced me very much, but not a writer of fiction. A writer who confirmed my bionic love and transformed it into something so much more. Donna Haraway, who is a professor and a writer of several groundbreaking treatises on human-machine relations, told me I didn't have to wait to become a cyborg. I already am one. Fittingly, in the year 1984, Haraway wrote a cyborg manifesto, and in it she makes this statement. By the late 20th century, our time, a mythic time, we are all chimeras, theorized and fabricated hybrids of machine and organism. In short, we are cyborgs. The cyborg is our ontology. It gives us our politics. The cyborg is a condensed image of both imagination and material reality, the two joined centers structuring any possibility of historical transformation. In the traditions of Western science and politics, the relation between organism and machine has been a border war. The stakes in this border war have been the territories of production, reproduction, and imagination. A cyborg manifesto is an argument for the pleasure and confusion of boundaries and for responsibility in their creation. And she goes on to write that her manifesto is written in the utopian tradition of imagining a world without gender, which is perhaps a world without genesis, but maybe also a world without end. And right there, in academia, at the end, at the dawn of the 21st century, I found in theory ideas that felt like the science fiction I grew up reading. I got confirmation in the idea that with technology, we can push back against the rigid boundaries imposed upon us, that we can take an active part in our own evolution and augment the evolution of our bodies, of our minds, and take humanity to the next level of existence. Donna Haraway blew open a door to a path that led me to the most exciting word I know, transhuman. And transhumanism is where all my paths intersect, where my love of robots and cyborgs, drag queens and androgynes, tech and sci-fi, fantasy and reality come together in one massive boundary-shattering field of study. It's where bionic people become real and is the one word that best sums up both my faith in the future and my belief in human potential. It's where the science fiction of William Gibson becomes realized in the work of Martine Rothblatt and Randall Cooney, who may be the people who allow us to upload our minds onto digital brain emulation software and have our consciousness live on long after our physical bodies give out. Okay, this isn't an episode of Black Mirror, it's real. I mean, it is also an episode of Black Mirror, but it's also real. And that's what separates robots and artificial intelligence apart from all other aspects of science fiction storytelling. Robots are here. Artificial intelligence is on this planet, and we are interacting with it on a daily basis, and that is only going to continue to grow. A robot was just made a citizen in Saudi Arabia. It was a gimmick, but it's really happening. Robots confuse the boundaries between life and death, male and female, master and servant, thinking and perceiving, male and female, ability and disability. I take pleasure in the confusion of all of these boundaries. And as an artist, I have a unique platform to study and share these stories. And as a transhumanist, I take responsibility in their examination and the formation of new boundaries. Boundaries that expand and challenge the very definition of personhood. Now, Martine Rothblatt, who is working on this brain emulation software, says that if you believe in transgender rights, it's really not that far a leap to become a transhumanist at all. In one of her groundbreaking treatises, she writes that freedom of gender is a gateway to a freedom of form and to an explosion of human potential. If you can accept that a person without a penis can peaceably live life as they please, including as a man, then you should be able to accept that a person without physical form can peaceably live life as they please, including as a human. Can you accept that someone is not automatically passive or evil or dumb simply because they have a vagina instead of a penis? Then you should be able to accept that a person without physical form or a person is not automatically passive or evil or dumb simply because they have a software-based mind instead of a flesh-based one. Mind is the substance of humanity. Mind is deeper than matter. She goes on to write that human identity is limitless in variety and detachable from reproduction. Personhood is about equity, not equipment. And these are the ideas that we're throwing around today. This is the world we live in, and it's only going to continue. And when we are confronted with artificial intelligence that thinks, we need to know where we stand. We need to examine the spaces that robots occupy in our storytelling before they start occupying spaces in our society. We are on the verge of creating a new kind of intellectual equity, a new kind of person, and we have an opportunity and an imperative, I believe, in this moment to be prepared. Because once robot rights do become a rallying cry, and they are no longer storylines from The Matrix or Futurama, we will be forced to look around and examine just how well we've done with the rights of our fellow humans. Have we been using our time, our technology, our talents to build bridges or walls? The coming AI revolution provides an imperative for us to address the inequalities that exist on this planet and to allow us, as we become more bionic, to actually become more human.